Well, it's an exciting day for me personally, and hopefully a very exciting day for our players and the rest of our staff and everybody that cares about Carolina baseball. First day of full squad practice. It'll be our first day of 27 workouts. Those 27 workouts include 2 games against other teams. The NCAA rule is that we have to have our 27 practices within a 45-day window, and I believe we're doing it within a 44-day window, so we beat the clock. But we've been working for about 6 weeks now with small group practices. Terry Rooney has been working unbelievably hard with all of the pitchers, and they've thrown several bullpen sessions now. They threw one time against hitters. I wouldn't even call it a simulation game, a sim game. It was just more like a batting practice session or a bullpen session for the pitcher where there actually was a hitter hitting. There was no competition there. There were no counts being kept or anything like that, but just the first time to face against hitters. The hitters have been working unbelievably hard with Coach Mainieri, and they all look good. To be honest with you, I think we're going to have an older team, a very experienced team, and they're very quick learners. And I know Monty's been working so hard with them, and I see a lot of talent there, quite frankly. Coach Hendry's been bouncing around between both the pitchers and the hitters and doing a lot of things. And we've got a director of player development now, but a person by the name of Chris Gordon, who has actually been a tremendous help as well. He used to be the pitching coach at Duke, and most recently was the director of player development at the University of Texas. So he's brought a lot of knowledge with regard to the technology that we have available to us, and it's been adding a lot to both the hitters and the pitchers. So, all these small group workouts have been great, working on mechanics, working on the mental aspect of the game and so forth. But quite frankly, we're ready to start playing in some competitive environments, and that's what we're going to try to do. Our goal during the fall really is twofold. The first goal is to teach the players the way we want them to play the game. Obviously it's not rocket science, but we want our pitchers to really pound the zone and throw a lot of strikes, mix the pitches and so forth. As I mentioned, Terry's been working with them on that. With the hitters, there's an attitude I want our hitters to have, and it's a very aggressive attitude. I want them to be up there swinging the bats with confidence and with authority. Have some feel for the strike zone, yes, but not going up there looking for walks, but earning walks to earn base runners as opposed to being a passive team. I want us to be a very aggressive team. And so, the teaching aspect of the game, I think, is really important to lay the groundwork. But the second part of the twofold goals of fall practice is to create competition. And so we'll scrimmage virtually every day. This first week is going to be very unusual. We'll go through the whole practice session, working on fundamentals, taking batting practice, which includes base running and defensive work as well. But then we're only going to play a 2-inning scrimmage today. The pitchers are only ready to throw 1 inning each. And so we're going to have 21 pitchers throw 1 inning each this week, which counts out to about 2 innings, 2.5 innings, and 2 other 3-inning games this week. But by next week, hopefully everybody will be ready to throw 2 innings. And so typically our scrimmages each day will be 4 to 6 innings of that, somewhere in that range. And I think that'll create a lot of competition because the one thing we know about the Southeastern Conference is it is filled with competition, and we've got to get in that mindset. And I remind our hitters this weekend through an email that all the hitters will be facing SEC caliber pitchers starting now, and all the pitchers will be facing SEC caliber hitters from this point forward. And so how they perform against their own teammates is going to tell a lot about who we're going to count on as we enter into the spring. So with that said, I'd be happy to take a lot of questions.
We'll start on your right, Dave. How's it going, Paul? A couple for you. One, do you know of anybody who's hurt or for the season or won't be able to participate in the fall?
We have one player that's out for the year, and he's an incoming freshman by the name of Riley Goodman. Riley hurt his arm in high school last year, had to have Tommy John surgery, and we know that he'll be out for the season. We do have a few pitchers that are out for the fall as well. Parker Marlott and Eddie Copper will not pitch in the scrimmages. I guess there's an outside chance maybe towards the end, but we're not going to push that. They both had to deal with some injuries coming off last season. We have a couple of others that I'd rather not mention because I don't really know when they're going to be back. But we have had a share of some unique illnesses in these first 6 weeks, all the way from cyst to mono to colds and those type of things. So we're dealing with a lot of little stuff like that. I think we have 21 pitchers available right now to pitch in the games outside of the ones that are ill or have temporary injuries. Position player wise, the only one that won't participate today is Ryan Bakes. He's got a little wrist issue that hopefully he's going to clear up within the next couple of days. And Tyler June is very limited in what he can do because he had labrum surgery on his throwing shoulder coming out of high school. So outside of that, I think we've got a healthy group of position players and enough pitchers to get a good look in these scrimmages.
And also, I think I counted it right that it's a 46-man roster. When do you have to be down to 40?
Yeah, it's actually 48 right now. We have to be down to 40 by the time we open up next spring. But we have to be down to 45 before we play the Air Force Academy. So we'll have to trim off 3 players at some point before we play Air Force, and then we'll have to, reduce our squad by 5 more before we start our season in the spring.
Center Al.
Good to see you again, Paul. What's the status of Eli Jersenbeck right now, coming off his surgery? Do you feel it, and where do you feel like he is right now in his rehab?
Yeah, we feel he's in great shape. His bullpens have been outstanding. He's got electric stuff. I mean, when you watch him throw a bullpen, you think Friday night starter. There's no question about that. And except for a couple of little nagging non-baseball-related issues that he's had to deal with that hopefully are not long-term type things, he should be ready to go. I think he pitches on Wednesday this week, if I'm not mistaken. But he'll throw 1 inning, and then we're going to try to build him up. But he's a priority for us because obviously he missed all of last year, and there's such great potential there. There's such great talent. I'm certain that I'm not trying to get ahead of myself, but I'm certain that if everything's going according to plan, that he'll probably pitch in both of those scrimmage games against other teams just to get him out there and get the experience again of facing players from another team.
Hey, Paul, good to see you again. With the transfer portal this summer, how would you assess the way you guys attacked it with the entire staff and stuff?
I think we did a tremendous job, and it was our total focus this summer. And obviously Terry and Monty just, they weren't even hardly here all summer. We addressed what we felt that we needed to do, and we did that. When John Hendry came aboard following Virginia's time in the College World Series, he jumped right in there as well. And I made a couple of trips myself there to look at some players. But the concerns that we had when we just looked at the roster, the first concern we had was catching. When you looked at the fact that we lost Cole Messina and we lost Reeves, the top 2 catchers off last year's team, the only catcher we had returning was Bakes, and he had 21 at-bats, and we had a freshman coming in who I'd never seen play, the previous staff had recruited. So that was the first point of concern, to just get a little depth there. So we recruited Max Coffer, who started quite a bit at Texas A&M in his freshman year, but then Texas A&M brought in a really tremendous player named Appel, who became the starting catcher for them, and Max went to a backup role. But he played up in Cape Cod this summer and did fairly well. I went up and watched him play 1 game, and he kind of fits the profile of what we needed to know that we have a good defensive catcher on our staff. But in the meantime, what we ended up doing was we told Talmadge LaCroix that we're going to convert him to catcher. And he actually went to Cape Cod this summer as well and had a chance to catch several games in the last few weeks of the Cape Cod League. I went up to Cape Cod to watch him play as well. And quite frankly, the game that I watched, which included Ethan Petrie and Will Tippett and another good ball club on the other side of the field, I thought Talmadge LaCroix was the best player on the field that night. He really swung the bat great. He caught very, very well. He made a terrific tag play at the plate on an outfielder's throw, tagging a runner out at the plate. And he's continued to work at his catching, and I think he's going to be right there in the hunt to be our number one catcher. I don't know if you've seen him lately, but he's shaved off his beard, and it's kind of the new Talmadge LaCroix. He's ready to make his senior year his very best year yet. The other concerns we had as we looked at the roster was we had very little left-handed pitching on our roster, and Terry in particular really went out to identify some guys that we thought could help us. We recruited a young man that was in the starting rotation at the University of Miami last year, Ashton Crowther. Now I must tell you this, when I talked to Ethan Petrie, he faced Crowther in high school, and he thought he was really, really tough. Then unfortunately, Ashton had Tommy John surgery, and then was only just coming back off his Tommy John surgery when he pitched this year at Miami. So he didn't have all of his stuff back, and his stats were not all that outstanding. But we think he can really pitch, and his health is getting better every day, and his stuff's coming back, and he's going to be a nice addition to our team. We also recruited Jarvis Evans out of the transfer portal, who was at Georgia the last 2 years. And Jarvis, I think, started 7 games for them last year, if I'm not mistaken, with mixed results. But when he's on, he's really good. And I'll tell you, he's a tremendous young man. He's really worked hard. He's done everything Terry has asked of him, and Terry's very excited about the possibilities there. We also recruited a young man that had finished his freshman year at Flowdart that led his team to the Junior College World Series by the name of Aiden Palmer. And Aiden, we're really excited about him. He is a strike-throwing machine from the left side. His stuff is not overpowering, but he knows how to, mix them up, use both sides of the plate, and he's got a tremendous amount of poise. I think he's going to help us quite a bit. The previous staff had recruited a young man named Jackson Susie. Unfortunately, he's been having some nagging arm issues since he's arrived here, so we don't really know what we have there. He was tremendous last year in junior college, but I just don't know what availability he's going to have for us, particularly this fall. Trying to think if there was any other left-handed pitchers that we recruited this summer. Anybody? Oh, Wyatt Evans, of course. Yeah, Wyatt. I knew there was another Evans I was missing. They are not related, by the way. Wyatt pitched at Tennessee the last couple of years. He only had one appearance this year, and then there was something that happened, and he ended up leaving the team. It wasn't with them throughout the years. They won the national championship. But Wyatt is he's a guy that knows how to pitch as well, and he's a South Carolina boy, so he's at the school he should be at, and hopefully he'll contribute quite a bit for us. He's got some good experience, and he's a big man and knows how to pitch.
Go to your left, Pete.
Hey, Paul. Pete Iacobelli with the AP here. I was on vacation when you were hired, so welcome.
What kind of excuse is that, Pete?
I'll let you talk to my wife about that. But how have these past few months been for you? Is it like getting back on a bicycle, or have there been moments where it's like, okay, well, this is a little different than what I had experienced previously in my career?
Well, that's a great question, Pete. And I have to tell you this. We had the press conference. Everything happened so fast with Ray and the offering me the job, me deciding to take the job, the press conference, and so forth. And, I just kind of used my personality to kind of explain everything through the press conference. And then the reality set in that, wow, I actually do have this job, and I'll never forget the first day that I sat down in the seat behind my desk, and I had this moment of, man, I wonder if I can still do this job. And about 30 seconds later, I said to myself, this is like riding a bicycle. I feel like I'd never left. Honestly, I felt just so comfortable and so confident, and every little thing. There's a gazillion things that happen behind the scenes that as a head coach you deal with constantly, and your mind goes there to remember this or remember that, and it just came back so naturally to me. And so I was uncomfortable maybe for about 10 seconds, and then that was it. And quite frankly, I'm having the time of my life. I never realized how much I missed being busy all the time, not having enough time in the day to get everything done. I'd come to the office at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'd leave the office about 11 o'clock at night, and I'd be like, where'd the day go? Sometimes I skipped lunch and dinner, didn't even realize how late it was. Terry and Monty and John were on the road most of the time, and I was kind of, I guess, back at the command zone, so to speak, except for the few times that I went out. But there was so much organization to do to just get everything ready, with our administration and communicating with the current players, with recruits coming in and so forth. And it was just so much fun to be busy again. And then as the players that were around from last year's team that were here either going to school in the summer or working out with Billy Anderson in the weight room or here for rehab with Corey Barton, they'd come up and I'd have a lot of individual meetings with players and got to know them, which was really great. And I'll tell you, it was, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed just sitting there talking to a young man again. I hadn't done that in so long, but I just feel like it came back very naturally to me. And today will be the first day I really put on a uniform again. We've been just running around in shorts and T-shirts, but today, with it being our first official day, everybody will be in uniform, including the coaches. And I'm kind of excited about that, to be honest with you.
We'll stay here now. George.
Hey, Paul, good to see you. You mentioned a lot in the weeks, months after you were hired, how much, Ray Tanner was, part of the reason of that. How did you find out that he was, transitioning to a new role, and what have your discussions been like with him since then?
Well, I can't lie. I was pretty shocked when it happened. Ray and I are such good friends that sometimes he'll confide in me about some things, before anybody else knows about him. And I knew that, I could see it in his face that he was getting kind of worn down by the job. Even at the time when he hired me, he had to hire 4 coaches, I think, in a week. And I'm sure there was a lot of stress and tension during that time. And just the job itself, an athletic director's job is such a thankless job. It's so easy to face criticism, and yet the person just puts their head down and works and just deals with all the little crises that come up on a daily basis. But I did not anticipate that he would retire 4 months into my tenure here, that's for sure. But, in speaking to Ray about it, I was happy for him, because if this is what he wanted to do, I'm happy he got a chance to do that. But he'll still be around, evidently. And that's what he keeps telling me. He's saying, I'm going to have more time to spend with you now that, I'm not going to have to take care of all the sports. So I'm looking forward to spending time with him. Obviously, he's not going to be my boss in this role. And obviously, I'll be very anxious to see who will become my new boss. And listen, I'm totally committed to being here. And I love what I'm doing. I love working with the players. I love working with my staff. I can't wait until February 14th when we open up our first game of the year, and and then fight our way through a tough SEC schedule. And my eyes are always off in the distance where I want to see this team get to, in a little city up in the Midwest. So, that's the goal, and I'm totally committed to that. And these young men that have been entrusted to me in our program, they deserve my best and all of our coaches' best, regardless of who the athletic director is. So that's what my focus is going to be. But I'll be very anxious to see who the new person is. There's no question about that.
John?
So you're going to hire Ray to be on your staff to be his boss?
The thoughts crossed my mind.
You mentioned earlier wanting to be aggressive offensively. Now that you've had a month or so to work with these hitters on the field, how can this team fit your profile offensively and what you want them to be? Is there anything that you really like that they do well? Anything that you've had to try to erase from their minds in terms of what they've been doing before?
Well, Monty was their hitting coach the last couple years already, so there's nothing really that's changed with the returning hitters. And some of those guys were pretty good and they did well. So I don't micromanage Monty with the way he coaches the hitters. He knows what he's doing. He's a terrific coach. And then the new players have come in, and I think it's been an idea of both he and I getting to know those new guys a little bit and what their strengths and weaknesses are. But I can see already Monty's influence on them and how he's helped them. We have a young third baseman by the name of KJ Scobie, and when he came in, watched him take his first couple sessions of batting practice, it seemed like the only pitch he could hit was one that was going to hit him in the belt buckle, that he would pull, he'd pull it with authority. He's obviously got some power. But in this league, if you can't hit the ball, cover the whole plate and hit the ball to the opposite field, it's going to get exposed, and there's the pitching coaches and pitchers that have the ability to pitch at your weaknesses. But, the other day I watched KJ Scobie taking batting practice, and he hit about 5 or 6 line drives to right field, and he's a right-handed hitter. And I could already see Monty's influence with him. These are things that Monty and I talk about in the office about what we want, what I want, out of our hitters. And then he'll go out and implement it in working with those guys. I don't stand over his shoulder while he's working with them. I want him to feel, like comfortable with what he's telling them. We talk about it mostly in the office. But, when you go out there and face real pitching, things can change, and that's what we don't know yet. All we've been facing is Caleb Westfall on the batting practice mound, or Monty on the practice mound, or myself pitching batting practice or whatever. So now when it's coming in there at 93 and they have sliders and changeups and so forth, we'll see what we have. But my first inclination is we've got a lot of guys that can hit the ball out of the ballpark, and you need to have that here because this is certainly a ballpark where you can hit one out of the park, out over the outfield fence. But I also know there's going to be days when we're really going to need to manufacture and use the opposite field and bunt and steal bases and hit and run. And we'll see how that transpires as we get into these scrimmages. I'm not going to implement strategy in these first couple of weeks. I really want the players to just go out and play the game. They all have the green light to run. They all have the green light to swing away on 3-0 pitches. I want to get a gauge for their self-confidence in themselves and what they think they can do before I start kind of force-feeding them into a strategy that we're going to implement. So these first couple of weeks will be interesting just to see them play the game the way they know how.
In the back here, Julia.
Hey, Paul.
Hey.
Just wanted to go back to the experience of getting to know your team. Just what's it been like getting to know the person behind all the players, and what have they taught you about being here in South Carolina?
Well, I have been so impressed by them, first of all, with their honesty, their frankness, the way that they talk with me, what they felt that the needs for the team were going to be from a leadership standpoint. And I really appreciated that. I've really been impressed with virtually all of them, just in the way they carry themselves. They're really a nice group of kids. I mean, very well-mannered and, just very, very polite to people. And the other night we had the Screaming Eagles out here, which is a team of kids with special needs, and the whole team was out there volunteering to spend time with them, and their patience with the youngsters was awesome. They really are a well brought up group of kids. You can tell that. When I look at their academic transcripts from last year, they had a GPA well over 3, which is outstanding. It shows that they have intelligence and that they have some discipline and are committed to doing the job in school. And then the kids that we've recruited through the transfer portal, especially, they're mature and just, again, really nice kids. And so I tell you what, it's just been a real joy for me getting to know them, and I hope that they've enjoyed getting to know me. I haven't had to make any decisions that have negatively impacted any of them yet, So, in the fall, that's always a great thing because you play everybody in the inter-squad scrimmages, But, when it's funny, in the spring, when you hold that pin, only 9 names come out of it, That's when they start to get a little more upset with you. But so far, I just think it's been a really great mesh between our coach, not just me, but the entire coaching staff, and including Chris Gordon and Caleb Westfall and Jamie Carl. It's just been a lot of fun to be around these guys. I'm looking forward, though, for these next 6 weeks when we're going to try to get them to show that competitive zeal that they might have.
Stay on your left, Lily.
I just have a quick question. In your introductory press conference, you said that you wanted to meet Dawn Staley. I know she's been literally all over the world this summer, but have you gotten the chance to meet her?
It's funny. I can't believe that question got asked. I went to her office. I actually went over to the basketball office. I could probably tell you the exact date if I looked it up, but I had a great visit with Lamont Paris. We spent a couple hours together visiting, and then he walked me down to see an old friend of mine that works in the basketball office, Chris Matlock, who's an equipment manager. Chris and I worked together at Notre Dame many years ago, and man, when he saw me, he just slobbered all over me. It was great, see an old friend that we hadn't seen in a long time. So then I went over to see Dawn. And you won't believe this, but they told me she had just left for Paris like 2 hours earlier. So all that time I was spending with Lamont, I should have gone to see Dawn first. So anyway, I haven't not been back over there to see her. I got kind of busy. By the time she came back from the Olympics, we were kind of really into it. So I haven't made the time to go back over there. So I still haven't met her in person, but my wife tells me we should invite her over for dinner. And I said, Karen, I'm sure she's busy to not be able to come to dinner, but maybe one day we'll get to see her soon.
Jordan?
As you try and put your stamp on the program, it seems like one of the cool little features is these fall exhibitions. The College of Charleston, Air Force, some other ones. Can you kind of describe the thought process of why those are important to you, why you feel the need to do them, and how they'll help the program?
Yeah, well, the NCAA for years did not allow us to play games against outside competition. Let's show you how old I am. I used to coach when they allowed you to play fall games unlimited, and then they cut it to 10, and then they cut it to 0. And so, that was always kind of a thorn in my side, quite frankly, because, fall scrimmages amongst yourselves, you try to create it as much like a game situation as you can. You put the scoreboard up there, you run the timer clock, you bring in an umpire to call the balls and strikes and enforce the timing rules and those type of things. But no matter how you look at it, the guy out there pitching might be your roommate against you, or the hitter you're trying to get out might be your best friend. Who knows? So it's still not exactly like it will be in the springtime. So when the NCAA added those 2 games, I, for one, was pretty excited about it. There's just something a little bit different, when you put the real uniform on and you don't know the other team. And, for how many years, the most nervous I've ever been, I've coached national championship games, SEC tournament championship games, etc. I've coached in a lot of big games in my life. The most nervous I ever am is on opening day in the season, because you just never really know what you have, because you don't have anything to compare it to when playing against another team. And so I'm looking forward to doing it. The first phone call that I received, I think after the news broke that I was going to be the coach, was from my boy Mike Kozlowski, who's the coach at the United States Air Force Academy. I actually coached Mike his sophomore, juniors, and senior years. Sophomore, junior, and senior years were my first 3 years at the academy. And Mike was like that player that I don't even know how to describe him. He was a baseball rat. Like, you're at a military institution with the most difficult academic challenges that there is. I couldn't hardly drag him off the field to get him up on the hill to do the stuff he was supposed to be doing. And then he graduated from the academy and went to pilot training. And his first assignment was I got him back to the academy as an assistant coach. So I ruined his military career by doing that. He didn't get promoted, in a fast way, but he did serve our country and flew C-17s to the Middle East very frequently with bullets whizzing by the cockpit, and unfortunately many times he had to transport deceased soldiers back. So I consider Mike a war hero, and he's the most dedicated patriot I know, in my life. He believes in everything the Air Force Academy stands for times 100. And so anyway, one of the first calls I got was from him, and the first thing out of his mouth was, "What are you, crazy?" And I said, "Mike, I just couldn't stay away." And then he said, "Okay, well, let's play a fall game." That was the second thing out of his mouth. So it turns out October 26th, there's no football game, home or away, and it's late enough in fall practice where I think we'll be able to put a representative team out there where we'll have an idea what our guys can do. And so, he's going to come in, and we're going to play I think we're going to play a 14-inning scrimmage. So it's not really going to be a game with the score and that type of thing. Give everybody a chance to play. And I'm excited about it because it gives you a much better look of what your team has. And then the College of Charleston game, I just noticed on the schedule that the College of Charleston hadn't been on for a couple years, and I didn't really understand why. And Chad Holbrook is a friend of mine, and I reached out to Chad and I said, "Hey, how come we haven't been playing?" So we talked about that a little bit, and I said, "Well, you want to play a fall? Let's start back by playing a fall game. We'll come over to Charleston to play you if you'd like us to." Well, I think there was a hesitation because I think Chad fell off his chair and he had to pick himself up. He says, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yeah, I want to take the team away from Founders Park for one day too." And so anyway, they're making a big deal out of it. They're selling tickets. I don't think we're selling tickets here, are we, Ken? But I would love for our fans to come out and really give our players an experience, since there's no football to watch. You don't want to watch all those other SEC games on television. Come on out and watch some good baseball and get your first look at the Gamecocks. And hopefully we'll have a nice big crowd. Hey, we're going to have parachuters jumping into the field. We're going to have flyovers. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be great. I love the military and especially the Air Force Academy, and we're going to have a good game there. But then I also wanted to get the team away to different surroundings, and maybe even a little bit of a hostile crowd, which will be good to see how the guys can handle it. They were going to play it over at, what's it called, Patriots Point, but they switched it, I think, to the minor league park because they had such an interest in tickets.
Paul, a couple more for you. The scrimmages, I've noticed, all through the week. What will be the work done on weekends that you guys will do?
Well, we're not doing any work on the weekends. We have to give the kids at least one day off a week, but there's an NCAA rule that we have to give off 14 additional flex days, where you pick wherever you want to, and they're additional dates through the year. So I just build the 14 into the fall semester, so I don't have to worry about it in the spring. So there's some weeks where we give as many as 2 or 3 days off to meet that requirement. The September 13th to October 13th is the contact period for recruiting. That's when our coaches can go off campus as well. And so that's why we're not practicing any Saturday and Sundays for a month, because the three assistant coaches will go off campus usually Thursday afternoon after we practice, Thursday night, and then be gone Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I didn't want to have a lot of practices while our position coaches were gone. I went on a trip earlier this week and missed a couple of days of our pitcher against hitter to go make a couple home visits and see a couple of guys that I wanted to see. But once we start fall practice, only the assistant coaches will go on the road. But once October 13th hits, then we'll start having some. I haven't practiced on a Saturday my entire coaching career, and that was by design, because I'm a big believer in the student athletes having the experience of being a student. And what is Saturday afternoons in the fall for? Football, right? And I want them to go have fun and be with their friends and just enjoy it. And I've been this way all the way back to the Air Force Academy at Notre Dame, at LSU, and I'll do the same here. I don't believe in practicing fall baseball on Saturday. I believe in them being college kids and having a good time. But we will start practicing on some Sundays once the contact period is over and we're back into a quiet period.
And then for the season, you get 3 non-conference weekends besides Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Are those finalized yet that you can speak about?
They are, but I don't know that I'm at liberty to release them yet. So I think our schedule needs to be approved by somebody on campus. And I made that mistake one year at LSU and got my wrist smacked, so I'm not going to do that again. You know our SEC schedule, right? Everybody's got that. I'll assure you there are 56 games on the schedule, though.
Coach, Jordan Carrion last year wasn't eligible to play as a 2-time transfer. What is his status for the fall and this upcoming season?
Well, he's a full-pledged member of the team, and he's going to get as much opportunity as everybody else. Been primarily working him at second base. We brought in a young man by the name of Caden Gaskin, who looks like a really nice ball player as well. He played for Northwest Florida State College. They keep changing the names on me. I sometimes get north, south, eastern, southwestern, whatever. But they played in the national championship game of the JUCO World Series and hit like 400 and stole 42 bases. So he's a nice little ball player. I really like him. So he and Jordan are competing at second base right now, and if neither one of them win the job, I could potentially move somebody else over there, because we've got 2 third basemen, 2 shortstops, 2 second basemen right now. So it's going to be a lot of competition this fall. And, Jordan's going to have to make the team. He knows that. It's been made very clear to him. It'd be easier to make the team if you win the starting job, but yeah.
Hey, Paul. While you were away from the game, I'm sure you continued to follow college baseball, baseball in general. Where do you think it's evolved, and where do you think we are going in a few years with this sport?
You're talking about at every level?
Yeah, in your general opinion.
Yeah. Well, there are some things that concern me about our sport. I'm not going to lie about that. Some of the salaries at the big league level have become unbelievable. I don't know how we're paying players. What's Juan Soto going to get this year? It's unbelievable. And now, obviously the NIL has crept into baseball as well. It's not the game of baseball that I grew up with as a youngster, and probably you as a youngster either. It used to be, hustle and handling the bat, and playing defense mattered, and pitchers being able to pitch. So much of it now has become pitchers throwing 100 miles an hour, a strikeout or a home run. Playing for the when I was a kid growing up, you wanted to play in the major leagues because that was the highest level of baseball. It was an example of you taking the game as far as you could take it. Now I think a lot of kids they're thinking about how much money they can make in the game. But I also have learned one thing about coaching in my entire life. By my own experiences as well as watching great coaches that I have always admired, coaches like Don Shula and my father and Tommy Lasorda and people like that, is that you either adapt or you die. And I feel like I've adapted in a lot of ways through the years without compromising my core principles. There's some things I'm just not ever going to give up on. I'm going to make players hustle. I'm going to make them back up bases. I'm going to make them communicate with each other. I'm going to make them work hard for their jobs. I'm going to make them earn their jobs. I'm going to encourage them and build their confidence and so forth. I just have always believed, and I don't think I even said this at the press conference, but I'll say this now. When I was out of the game for 3 years, and I retired because I wasn't feeling good. I was having these terrible neck issues, and it was in the post-COVID protocols were in place where you couldn't talk to the players. If a player came to my office, he had to sit 10 feet away. We both had a mask on. I literally could not even talk to a team. I had one team meeting that whole year, and that was in the stands with a microphone, with them sitting a few seats apart. And one of my strengths had always been, to inspire and motivate kids and to keep them level-headed when bad things happened, when they had a bad game or we lost a game or whatever. But now all of a sudden we're having to ride on 2 buses to space kids out. And when the game is over, if we had a tough loss, instead of me grouping them together in the parking lot and talk about, kind of put the game to rest and get them ready for the next game, I couldn't do any of that. So I wasn't feeling good. It wasn't fun the way I had to coach the kids. And I just thought it was time to get out, okay? Through those last 3 years, many of my very good friends that are in the business would say to me on the phone, boy, good thing you're not in this anymore. It's totally different the way it is. You would not have enjoyed this. It's, the way it is. Kids are entitled. Kids are spoiled. There's no loyalty. These are the things I kept hearing from all of my friends. And after a while, I would start to argue with them about it and say, I know what kind of coach you are. You need to overcome those things and adapt to it and find a way to help these kids grow. And in a sense, I was kind of talking to myself because I kind of took it as a challenge. Everybody's telling me I picked the right time to get out, but I'm saying to myself, I just can't imagine my career being over and me not having an opportunity to coach in this era of transfer portal and NIL and everything else. Because I guess I had the confidence in myself that I could still make an impact on young people's lives. And so, when I got this opportunity presented to me, I jumped at it because I wanted to see if my style of coaching can still work. And I think it can because, it's difficult to get them here sometimes. But I can tell you that when we're out there on the field, I coach them the same way I've always coached them. I challenge them when I think they can do better, and I love them when I think they're working hard and they do it the right way, and the kids seem to be responding to it. We'll see how it goes, and we'll see if we have a mass exodus into the transfer portal or not. I don't anticipate that we will, but I just think if you look really at baseball from the time it started in 1867 to now, it's gone through different phases, forever. And it's always survived. There's always been baseball. And, those that love the game, it's in their blood, they still love it. I know it's been strikeout or home run in a lot of cases. I don't anticipate that that's going to be the way the South Carolina Gamecocks play. Primarily because we don't have guys throwing 98 miles an hour, but on the defensive side, but on the offensive side, we're going to battle up there. I don't look at it like a strikeout as an out, the same as any other out.
John.
A couple of things for you. You mentioned Talmadge has cleaned his appearance up a little bit. Do you have appearance guidelines in your program in terms of facial hair or how they wear uniforms or anything like that?
You know, the funny thing about it is I always have. I always had a non-facial hair rule. You know, listen, my two sons have beards, so I have nothing against beards. And personally, one of the things I dislike the most in my life is just shaving every morning, okay? For some reason, I always have these spots on my face that won't stop bleeding after I shave every day. But I always, told the players at LSU and Notre Dame, well, Air Force, of course, they had grooming rules anyway, but even at St. Thomas, I always told them that, look, you make some sacrifices to be a part of this team. And, I think it's very important to be a role model for young people. Once you go into professional baseball, you're an individual contractor, and you can brand yourself however you want to. But I always demanded that they be clean cut. But this is kind of one of my adaptations to now. This is the first year that I'm not having a facial hair rule. I didn't make Talmadge shave his face, and I'm not going to make anybody do it. I might talk to them about it and see how they feel, but I'm not going to implement that rule. I just think I'm a little bit antiquated, and I need to show the players I'm hip now, right? I can text. I have a Twitter account. Hey, you don't have to shave. What else is there? No, TikTok, I drew the line.
And also Cole and Messina and Eli Jones were kind of the heartbeat of the team from a position player and pitching standpoint last year. Have you noticed some guys, I know it's a very early juncture, but have you noticed some guys kind of trying to lean into those leadership type roles at this point?
I think so, but I've never been a big believer in one person on the position player side and one person on the pitcher side. We have to have a team of leaders. And I've said this for many years to my teams. I very rarely have ever even identified captains on a team because I want everybody to be a captain and I want everybody to be a leader in their own way. First of all, if you name somebody the captain, they seem to add extra pressure on themselves, like they need to do something in addition to playing well, when playing well is really the most important thing that they can do to help the team. But, I have good communication lines with a lot of players already, and they'll speak with me very frankly, and I want them to. Whether it's about other players or even about me, if they see something that I do that doesn't go over well with the players, I want them to speak up to me. But I think some of the obvious ones, are Dylan Eskew being as an older player, Blake Jackson and Ethan Petrie being established players here. Will Tippett might be the greatest teammate I've ever seen. He just seems to be the most unselfish person that you can imagine out there. He's competing hard with a young man by the name of Henry Kazmar, and all he does is keep encouraging him at shortstop. It's wonderful to see kids that are helping each other, even guys that they're competing against. And so it's early to say who's going to be those guys that really step up, because there's a lot of things that, like I tell the players this, I said, you're going to respect all of your teammates simply because they wear the same colored jersey as you. But true respect has to be earned. It's earned by work ethic, it's earned by following the rules, and it's especially earned by the guys that come through in clutch situations, or the guys that are having a tough day, but they don't sulk and hang their head, and they're ready to produce for the team late in the game, despite the game not going so great for them up to that point. So that's how you earn the players' respect. And we haven't competed yet to get to that point where I could tell you, oh, these are the guys that really are stepping up as leaders of the team. But I hope everybody is a leader in their own way. I hope that they hold each other accountable and look after each other. If they see somebody doing something that could be injurious to themselves, that they should step in and make him aware that he shouldn't be doing that. And I think if we only have one designated person, then he can't be everywhere, so to speak.
Any more questions, Coach?
All right, thank you all for coming out, yeah.